Hey guys, once again, it's another episode of Pop Culture Galaxy News, and I'm Mark Bridge. Now, first of all, on the top, I just want to say rest in peace to my boy, Burt Reynolds. I mean, he's not my boy, I don't really know him, I never met him, but I like his movies. I haven't seen a lot of them, admittedly, because he's been in movies way before I was born, but I've seen some of them. I saw Smokey and the Bandit, and I saw the Longest Yard remake. I didn't see the original, so don't at me, please. And then, of course, I remember him for his role in Striptease, because, I had to watch, I'm a guy, I had to watch that movie, so I remember him in that role. So, he has a long, prolific career, so he's been around for a long time, so I think he'll be remembered, definitely. I think Sally Field recently came out and made a statement on how he would be in her history and her heart, and, they even dated for a while, but yeah, rest in peace to Burt Reynolds. Second, I want to jump into some Dune news. Now, Dune remake is being done by Denis Villeneuve. I'm hotly anticipating that movie because I love that director. So far, he's been on fire lately. Even though a lot of his movies aren't box office blockbusters, but they've been visually stunning. They've been intellectually challenging, and I just love his movies, particularly his last one, Blade Runner 2049. Now he has Dune on the horizon, and so far for casting, we've had only one, which is Timothy Chalamet, however you pronounce his last name. He's playing Paul Atreides, and now we may have our Lady Jessica, Paul's mom. She'll be played by, if talks goes through, she'll be played by Rebecca Ferguson. Now, Rebecca Ferguson is from the Mission Impossible movies, well, the last two, and she did such a good job in those movies. Both kind of keeping her, feminine sexuality side of it, but also just being totally badass. And I think that even though Lady Jessica isn't really like a badass per se, like in the physical sense, she does exude this sort of presence about her. But Lady Jessica, so I need to read the books. I have them. I'm going to read them. I saw the David Lynch film, and I saw the Sci-Fi remakes, the Sci-Fi Channel remake, and I love the Sci-Fi remake channel better. Only because, like, not only the special effects are better, even though if you do watch them right now, it's super dated, but the special effects is better, and also the it was 6 hours, so they had time to sort of go into a lot more details than the movie did. So yeah, that's why I prefer the Sci-Fi version. Now, the Denis Villeneuve movie will only adapt the first half of the book. I spoke about this a while back on another episode. How my worries is that the film, the second half, the first half, like, will end on some sort of like a anticlimactic, like, oh my god, will it be a satisfying ending to it being the first half? I'm trying to sort of think in the terms of the miniseries that I watched, how they could end it and make it satisfying. I don't remember it too much, and maybe I'll get a better sense of how he could possibly end it if I read the books, which I am going to read. But yeah, that was my sort of concern. Now, it makes sense to cast someone like Rebecca Ferguson because of how young she is and how young they're making Paul. Because if you watch the movie and you watch the miniseries, Lady Jessica is always a little bit older, and Paul is, it's like they aged up Paul a lot in both the movie and the miniseries, but they're going for a very young Paul Atreides when they cast Timothy. So I don't see why they would cast a much older Lady Jessica. So Rebecca Ferguson actually makes sense. So I guess they're bringing down the age a little bit of all the characters that I know of. Maybe that's their age in the books. Like I said, I haven't read the books, so I'm gonna read the books and check that one out. So I'm excited for that news. I like Rebecca Ferguson. I've been, infatuated with her since I saw her in Mission Impossible. I actually saw her in other movies, just didn't really, like notify, and it's like it wasn't registering like that's her until I actually went back. I was like, oh shit, that's her. I'm watching The White Queen on Starz, which she's a star of. So she's doing a pretty bang up job there. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. All right, so the next bit of news I want to talk about is Netflix picking up Designated Survivor. I'm so happy, right? There were talks that they were gonna bring it up from like maybe 3 months ago or even more. When ABC canceled it, Netflix, they were in talks with Netflix, but then, time passed by. You thought, oh yeah, it's probably not gonna get picked up. We heard Lucifer got picked up by Netflix. We heard all these other shows getting picked up and all these other shows getting rejected. So even though we didn't hear any more word on Designated Survivor, the lack of word just meant like it's doom and gloom for that show. And I'm a fan of that show. I watched both seasons, so I was kind of bummed out that it got canceled and like never get resolved. But Netflix picked it up for 10 episodes, and now they, the first 2 seasons, 21, 22 respectively. 10 is very short, but Netflix isn't constrained with, it has to be 46 minutes long, or it has to be 30 minutes long, or an hour. Like, an episode could possibly be an hour and a half. Like, they could have 2 hour-and-a-half episodes. Basically, you could have the amount of hours you can make this thing, even though it's 10 episodes. It could be, if they were to chop it up into traditional running length, you could possibly get like 20 episodes out of the amount of footage they shot. So I'm not worried about that, it being 10 episodes. So like, because they're not constrained by running time. And I'm excited because now they can go further into, push it further than they could during ABC's run. Even though ABC's kind of pushing the envelope a little bit, but not as far as Netflix can. So I had the same question I have with Lucifer. Like, now that it's on Netflix, like, how far are they gonna push the envelope? Like, I'm really excited to see what they come up with, or is it that they're more creative when they're constrained? You know what I mean? Like, now that they have carte blanche to do whatever they want to do, like, will their creativity go out the window, and then you watch it, it's like, oh, this is kind of whack, or that's when the creative juices flow. So I'm curious, and let me know below what you guys think of Designated Survivor surviving the chopping block and reappearing on Netflix. If you were a fan of the show, if you didn't care, whatever, just let me know below. Now the final thing I want to talk about is Fast and the Furious 9. I think it's official that they're going to shoot next year, 2019, and this, actually, I didn't know, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but Justin Lin, who directed Tokyo Drift, Fast 4, Fast 5, Fast 6, he's coming back to do this movie and possibly the 10th film, which is set to be the last of the franchise. So Justin Lin pretty much brought Fast and the Furious back from the dead. Like, Tokyo Drift was actually supposed to be a straight to DVD release when they lost, because in the second film they lost Vin Diesel, but they still had Paul Walker, so they were like, all right, we can run with Paul Walker, and they had John Singleton directing the movie, so that was pedigree on itself, so they were able to sort of survive in that. But now that they didn't have Paul Walker for the third one, and they had to recast the entire role and even change it into a different location, they figured, all right, this is we're just gonna capitalize on this and make it a straight to DVD thing. But I think Justin Lin did such a good job, and I think Chris Morgan, who is not coming back as writer for the first time in the franchise, Chris Morgan. I think he wrote such a good screenplay, and Justin Lin did a good job directing the movie that they said, you know what, it's good enough to release in the theater. So they put it in the theater. Didn't do as well as the first two, I think, or it did well enough that they were like, oh, it still has steam. They brought back the original cast for Fast 4, and then it just took off from there. And then Fast and the Furious franchise is just on the next level. So we got 9 and 10 coming up, and Justin Lin is back, which I'm happy because he's a good director. And I don't know if The Rock is coming back, because I know Hobbs and Shaw film's supposed to come out next year. I don't know if they start shooting it yet. What's the deal with that? But which way you spin it, I'm excited for the Fast and Furious franchise. I'm not one of those haters that are like, oh, I'm above that sort of thing. Nah, it's good. I've liked all of them, I think. Yeah, I've loved all the Fast and the Furious movies, including the first one, which is basically a Point Break ripoff. Who cares? There's a lot of movies that rip off other movies that either did it better or did it just the same, or maybe not as good as the thing they're ripping off, but it just has its own charm. I'm not a hater. Sue me. But yeah, I love that movie, and can't wait to see what Justin Lin does with the franchise again now that he's back. Right? As far as Brian, I know that they wanted to bring Jordana Brewster back, and they could do it without having to sort of deal with the whole Paul Walker situation. You could say, oh, she came to visit her brother. I mean, it is her brother, and came to visit her brother and his kid and Letty, and she with the family, and the kids are back home with Brian. So, and then she gets embroiled up into whatever adventure happens, and everybody's saying maybe she could call Brian. It's like, no, he's with the kids. You don't want to endanger the kids. I'll help you guys out, and maybe do like an off screen like call. Like, she's like, I'm okay, but she's like lying to Brian because she doesn't want Brian to worry or whatever. And then even Brian could like show up at the end to rescue them, but have it from a distance, and have like one of the brothers, Paul Walker's brothers, come in and do like a stand-in type thing, and that could be like a holy shit moment. Anyway, I'm on for the tangent. I should have edited this video a long time ago. But let me know what you guys think of all the topics I talked about today. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. Trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So until next time, folks, peace.